Okay, so the reason why I make YouTube videos is only because I talk a lot and writing in comments repeatedly. I'm not a Twitter person. Sorry, I'm 43 years old, 42, going on 43. I I'm not really into Twitter. I can't contain my thoughts in like 100 characters or less or 40 characters or whatever it is. I need to sometimes ramble through my thoughts to get them all out. And no, I'm not up yet to the level of like purchasing a vlog camera or even getting an iPhone. So this is like more um, highly produced or whatever. I'm a person with opinions. I like to like fully think out what I'm going to say. And that brings me to the topic at hand, which is Nina Bonina Brown and the backlash to the comments she made about Gottmik, or they made about Gottmik um, during the Little Black Dress Challenge. And what I am fed up with is what it appears is there is a almost school hallway monitor, bus patrol, Boy Scout attitude that is creeping into the gay community, where there used to be a place where we could, amongst ourselves, it's like the N-word controversy. Like amongst other black people, we understand the nuances of if there's a hard A or a soft A, if there's a hard R or, what we're talking about in context. If we're describing what someone said to us and victimized us with versus somebody who wronged us within our community versus a comradeship, brothership sort of use of the word, the hip hop sense of the word, the cool sense of the word. Like we understand all these different contexts. It's almost like there is a crisis of context. And people believe just because they can hear the words coming out of another person's mouth that they understand the full context, the full sense of humor, the full mise en scene, the full expression of where a person's coming from, what their true intentions are, where their heart is, where their mind is. I'm not saying any of that excuses what Nina Bonina Brown says, but for instance, in this specific situation, I didn't get that impression at all, and I can understand how people got the impression that it was transphobic in a way, but that would be confusing to me because if you're looking at Gottmik as a trans man, as a man, then the comment about having curves in the first place throws a whole gender non-binary structure into things. Like, you really have to question, like, you would have to look really deep into, like, logically what would be the intersection of curviness, manliness, transness in order to come up with offensive. For me, I thought that the joke was Gottmik isn't particularly curvy. So, showing their body was this like fabulous athletic body that they were very proud of. And I thought that the joke was not to focus on the fact that the body was fabulous, but it's like how you hype up your thinner little booty friends and you're like, you thick sis, you got that, look at that big bang and booty about the size of a pea, honey. You're doing that to your friends to help them. It's fun. Just like your thinner friends might, talk about you having too much ass. It's like, look at all that ass getting in the car. Y'all, you do that amongst friends. I think specifically as a drag performer, as a RuPaul contestant, as a person whose part of their illusion is padding and shaping the illusion of feminine form, whatever you want to say, if you're in the context of a binary where there's a masculine form or a feminine form, and one is curvy and one is straighter or one is more muscular, it's a big conversation about body types and what is feminine and what is masculine, and to boil her humor down to what you particularly feel as, well, there is a body shaming transphobicness to this context, to this comment, is to pick your perspective and drive it into that statement. Second of all, can we stop policing for trans people? I grew up in an era where trans people were not as visible, but they were present. And in their presence, a lot of them stood in a lot of strength. And they tried very much in strong aspects of their lives to separate themselves from the sexuality conversation. Their conversation was about health rights, economic empowerment, being able to to have more self-determination in their future, not be discriminated against, be the persons they are on their journey. Like, if you're a poor Black trans person living in the hood and you don't have access to hormones and you're taking illegal hormones, or you are getting illegal like silicone injections and all these things to feminize your form or be more ideal to your form, that presents a whole different paradigm to someone who is also looking for work at the local Burger King or the, grocery store. There is a much more nuanced path to living both an independent life and a trans life. And I knew people who were working that life to the best of their ability, and they did not want to take part in the conversation of lesbian and gay issues, as far as, our relationship issues, or whether or not our bars were being gentrified or closed, or it wasn't as intersectional. Matter of fact, as I heard Nina say in another commentary, as this has gone on and on, that they knew trans people who, look at gay stuff as like over there. Like, I don't want to be associated. I've been called very derogatory names by trans people myself. Do I think all trans people feel that way? No, because I've had trans people in my life who have been very welcoming and open and looking at a full queer umbrella of LGBTQIA existence. My personal journey with gender has grown over my life. When I was very young, I was very androgynous. I was often accused of being trans as if it was like a crime. Like, well, you need to pick a gender. You need to pick a side, as if there was something I could do to make myself more masculine. It wouldn't happen. I was a late bloomer. It didn't happen until I was in my mid-20s. And, as you can see, she's only a shave away from being slightly more like, I need you to understand, gender isn't a linear conversation for anybody. And if you want to completely absolve trans people from drag culture and drag humor, then maybe there is no place for trans people in drag culture. I found it really ironic that the very next week there was the Shade Room, competition, and it's like, this all makes me think that that reading is fundamental. That whole part of our culture, just like in Black culture, we have joning, and we have your mama jokes, and we have these things that are like part of our culture. In white culture, you have roasting. I'm starting to think all that is going to disappear with everyone politicizing everything. The thing that also gets to me is, like, for all the comments I see attacking other queer people for being one way or the other, the only thing I see are attacks. I don't see a lot of transparency when it comes to the people doing the attacks. So it's like a list of comments. You got 5,000 comments. 60% of them are telling these people horrid things about themselves and what to do and what not to do with themselves and their opinions. And you go to their page and there's nothing there. They might be a bot. They could be a 9-year-old just going along with the trend of calling people out. There's not a lot of transparency. And then the thing that, pushed me to make a video is, I've seen other commentators hopping on this, and they tend to be, and I hate to say it, cis, white, gay men. The police of gay culture. The people who, for them, gay culture stopped at circuit parties. These are the gay people who believe that RuPaul's Drag Race is drag. Like, there is a reconciliation problem in the United States as a whole. I would say in gay culture across, like, universally, internationally, there is a misidentification with gay and white culture. I need us to really fully understand, when the gay liberation happened, it was all of us. Stonewall was all of us. It was black lesbians, a Latin trans person, a black trans person, white gay guys. We were fighting. Everybody was together during the, AIDS explosion. I don't want to say epidemic or pandemic because it's still an issue. It's not isolated in time, but during the beginning of it, it was all of us. We were all in this fight, all stripes. There were lesbians at the forefront. There were straight women at the forefront as allies. There were parents of gay children who were allies. And what I feel is happening is, with this privilege of all the rights we fought and died for, the younger generation is coming in and sort of bullying older people who have different senses of humor and perceptions when it comes to different topics and expressing ourselves about it. So, from my standpoint, as a 42-year-old, what I would first advise is, if you're not a trans person, if you're not the person in question, so if you're not Gottmik, you're not a trans male performer, you're not a trans male, and you're not trans, find somebody who is and get them to comment on it. If you're just a performer, you're just generally a person who provides content, if you're just, doing drag, or you're just a fan of Drag Race, find somebody who this might offend. Don't take offense for them. The model that keeps appearing in my mind is, and I don't even know the child name because I really just have a strong distaste for this person, but I believe her name is Blair White or Blair something. A Trump supporting, if I'm not mistaken, trans woman who I saw literally during a intersectional conversation of queer people, look dead in a crying non-binary trans person's face and tell them they weren't trans because they were non-binary, as tears fell down this person's face. That could have been an edit. But this I feel like is the symbol of what older queer people are dealing with the younger generation, which is Blair, she got canceled or whatever, but I still saw her on my timeline. I don't know where she came from. I think it was from watching that one, I forgot, what is that, Jubilee? I'm not sure what that thing is where they bring, not all queer people, do all queer people think alike thing. I'm not sure, but Blair kept popping up on my timeline. I kept seeing Blair throughout the Trump era. I believe Blair got caught up in the whole Jeffree Star drama. She was popping up because of that. I mean, the child knows how to work the algorithm. What I'm saying is she did not disappear. I think she's disappeared again. She's been canceled this time for something else. But I don't understand how there's room for that person. And I don't see like 50 billion videos about that person. And the moment someone tells a sideways joke that people just don't get, there is like high drama about it and all this judgment coming their way. Just say you didn't like the joke. Call a person who it offended. Get them to speak on it. Show them support. And move on. Because like what I saw happen to Miss Bussy Queen, somebody came along that was trans and looked very quickly in their timeline and found them saying something offensive. I'm like, there was a time when Christian Siriano was on Saturday Night Live calling everybody a hot tranny mess. Do I think Christian Siriano is transphobic or has ever been? Absolutely not. Have I heard trans people use the term tranny amongst themselves to each other, have clarifying conversations about whether or not they think it's offensive in their world? Yes, I have. I have heard trans people say that it doesn't bother them. I've heard trans people say it doesn't bother them. I've heard trans people say they don't use gay jargon or they don't like to be associated with gay culture because they're living their lives as heterosexual women or men who just happen to be trans. There is there's this whole like we're not a monolith conversation to be had now within queer culture, but I think the most important conversation to be had is that y'all Twitter fingers burning and everything is setting our progress back. Because I still see that Trump and fascism made gains amongst cis white gay men, amongst gay men of color as well. I saw fascism over the past 4 years claiming friends of mine and people I know who want to claim that they're like anti this, policing going on, First Amendment rights going on, these First Amendment right challenges going on within gay culture where it's like if you're gay, you have to be, for this or for that. You have to be pro-life, pro-choice, or if you're gay, you have to be, for trans rights or these things. And if you're not those things, then you're kind of shunned. And that is my biggest fear, that we are losing sight of who we are as a community, trying to appease political speech, and we're not focused on the policy and the politics. There's not enough effort to, you know, help places that assist trans health networks or trans people get the services they need, or dealing with homelessness and home insecurity. But the moment there is a commentator who says a joke you don't get, the algorithm is on it. But there are trans people being kicked out of their homes every day, being hunted in the streets. And when Breonna Taylor was killed last year, hashtag Breonna Taylor, justice for Breonna, was everywhere for a long time. And still to this day, I see pictures of Breonna Taylor popping up. I don't see those trans black women who died anymore. That trans girl who was attacked in Minnesota last year, I think her name was Deja, see, I feel bad. Dior, that makes me feel bad. But I don't see her face anymore. I don't hear any talk about that anymore. I just feel like our anger is going the wrong direction. We need to stop the infighting. Yes, we can do two things at a time. Yes, we can shade each other for not being completely on board and completely politically correct with our humor. And, you know, you can literally just fold your arms and be like, bitch, that wasn't funny. But let it go and get on with the real fight. I'm sorry. I don't want to see 3 days of this drag race contestant said something transphobic, and I see 0 days of, you know, what trans person was, you know, their case of discrimination was turned down by a local court, or, you know, community health and COVID relief is not going to, is you know, being barred from organizations that help people with trans health in certain states and counties. Like, we need to refocus. Like, it's called YouTube for a reason. Like, you know, Nina said, follow her to the land of unfollow. You don't have to follow. You don't have to agree with the humor. You're not going to get everything. It's okay for it not to be funny to you. That is comedy. A lot of comedy is offensive to some, hilarious to others. Some people just don't get it, and some people think it's just the bee's knees. That's humor. That's how it goes. So focus on what you can change. That's all I'm saying.